Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cancel for Maintenance podcast. If this is your first time joining us, we're a show that takes a behind-the-scenes look into the gritty, non-glamorous life of aircraft maintenance. We share some laughs, impart some wisdom, all in hopes of giving you that split seconds relief in your day that can hopefully prevent a mishap. I am your co-host, Six, and I am once again soloing it for today's episode. MVP and Shoreline are tied up with various responsibilities, especially with work, and they're taking their personal breaks as they need to stay free from burning out. And I'm gonna be honest with everybody, it's been a hot minute since our last episode, and majority of that is because of the way things are going on at work. There's a lot of moving parts, a lot of regulations have shifted, a lot of policies have been rearranged, and a bunch of our organizations are being consolidated, moved around, things of that nature. It's the typical business shift when policies get updated, changed around, new leadership comes in, and so on and so forth. It's a hot mess. And how that's playing out at work is kind of sort of affecting our personal life, which makes it that much harder for us to actually crank out episodes, to actually dial down from the burnout. I can admit that I've probably burned out a good number of times, and my health has actually taken a slight dip. That's putting it lightly. I'm sorry. But we're slowly coming back on the up and up. We're hoping that we can find a bit more steady schedule and actually crank out more content that's going to be more beneficial, educational, hopefully helpful to everybody. And this kind of leads me into today's topic, which is part of the reason for our burnout is the shortage of aircraft mechanics and the shortage of aviation specialists in general in our fields. And to aircraft mechanics out there, not just here in the United States, but pretty much everywhere worldwide, it's been an issue that we've long since have been talking about since well before COVID. It's something that we've been talking about, like, hey, we're gonna slowly start running out of mechanics. We're going to slowly start running out of engineers, quality assurance specialists, pilots, and so on and so forth. Like, we saw this coming. So it wasn't a huge surprise once all this stuff started getting aggravated from COVID. The supply chain started to shut down. Mechanics started quitting or getting fired or whatever have yous. I would admit that what happened with the pandemic, well, whatever your feelings and opinions are about it, it aggravated an already trending negative situation. I can at least surmise that based on my observations. Like, it was already happening. We just forced it down the hill faster than it should have, right? And for whatever reasons or opinions you think why that is, I'll leave that up to you as to why. But in hindsight, all of this happening was not a surprise, but we also weren't fully prepared to just how bad it was gonna get. And the reason why we're experiencing this aircraft mechanic shortage, at least from my observations, okay, I'm basing this off of what I've seen. I'm basing this off of what other people have mentioned to us. Right. And I can tell you as far as why we're having such a shortage. For one is we're getting old. I'm sorry to say. And for those other mechanics out there, you feel it. We are getting old. And there are certain things that we can't do because of that age, because of our dwindling physical capability. We're still able to get the job done, but things are not bending and twisting as they once have. Things are not springing back as they used to. I mean, these aren't the knees that I used to jump off a swing from or jump off rooftops and stuff. It's just not anymore. As sad as that is. I kind of hurt my own feelings saying that, but here we are. So one is we're getting old. And the second one that's really driving this is there's not enough people coming in to replace the ones that are too old to do the job anymore. And this one we can dissect into its own slew of segments. But a main reason why we're not getting enough talent is because there's no, there's ne- I would say this is kind of a generation thing, but there's less interest in picking up trades such as aircraft maintenance or being a mechanic or an engineer or anything like that. There's a dwindling interest in it. And whatever facts or opinions you have of it, it could be generational. Like I said, that's my opinion on it. It could be a generation thing. It could be a recruiting push thing. It can be a education focused thing. Whatever the case may be, it's not kicking in as how it used to be. So that's been a major stoppage in that one. And one of the other ones that I want to focus on, which is a reason why this episode is being kicked off, is there's not enough examiners to actually certify the people to become aircraft mechanics. So for people who are not very versed in how all this works, is in order for you to become an aircraft mechanic, you have to go through certain types of training, whether it be out of school, whether it be on-hands training with an experienced technician, an apprenticeship, and so on and so forth. There's many ways you can slice this cake, but for the most part, you need to have some type of training, whether it be hands-on or in a school or both, whichever the case. And then once you've completed a certain requirement of said education, then you have to take, in essence, 9 types of tests. You have 3 written tests for your airframes, your power plants, and your general. This is for the US, by the way. For the people over at EASA and Canada and Australia, you guys have different requirements, and it's a little bit more strict than it is here in the US. But for the most part, it follows a similar pipeline. So you get hands-on training, you get some type of classroom training, and all this adds up to a certain amount of hours or credits or however they measured it. And then you got to take tests. You take written tests that determines that you can retain information and you can look things up. And then here in the US, you would schedule a time with a designated maintenance examiner, and then you will take a practical exam and a spoken/oral exam. And again, that's for general, airframes, and power plant. So in essence, 9 tests, right? These DMEs, or designated maintenance examiners, they're on a shortage as of now. As of this current recording, there's a shortage of them. And say you have a classroom of 20 plus aircraft mechanic hopefuls. They studied, they threw money into getting themselves educated and trained up. And then they're ready to take their exams to become licensed as aircraft mechanics. And then, oh, by the way, there is no DME or designated mechanic examiner available to give you the test. So this turns into like a bottleneck where you would have a bunch of graduates who are already knowledgeable, who have the understanding of how to be a mechanic, but they don't have the ability to take the test to get licensed, other than, say, the written. Now, this becomes a problem because once you sign up to take your aircraft mechanic license, you have about 2 years from the time you start to finish. And say if those 2 years lapse, then you have to redo a lot of those recertifications all over again. Do you see where this slowly becomes a problem? So without enough DMEs, these aspiring mechanics find themselves stuck in like this holding pattern where they're unable to get certified and start working as licensed aircraft mechanics. It's like a classic case of supply not meeting the demand, right? And it's something that's becoming, or that is fast becoming, a problem. So we've been preaching about this since episode 1, really, about just how like not having enough mechanics can just really gum up the works as far as getting your planes out on time, getting your planes maintenance certified and ready. not having enough mechanics to work a full shift and so on and so forth. And then now we throw this into the mix. So like we have the bodies that are capable and willing and knowledgeable, but now we can't certify them to be licensed aircraft mechanics. So what does this mean for the aviation industry? Simply put, for those of you who are bosses and bean counters, this puts potential delays and increased costs. And this ultimately leads to loss of money. Planes might have to be grounded more often due to maintenance backlogs. Things will have to be rescheduled and delayed, and this leads to disruptions and unhappy passengers. This leads to unhappy pilots. This leads to flight attendants not getting paid, so on and so forth. It waterfalls itself into a whole slew of problems, right? And this is not a pretty picture, but it's a possible reality that's fast coming to fruition, so to speak. And we've seen things of recent of what happens when aircraft are just rushed through the rigmarole to become ready and get up and flying. We haven't spoken much of it because we're not keen on talking about accidents that have actively happened and the investigations have not fully wrapped up. But we've seen it in the news as of recently. Aircraft having to do emergency diverts, aircraft having to do emergency landings. And the worst of them all is aircraft start having incidents and or crashes. So this safety concern is already adding up. And for those incidences that I've listed off, there could be a whole slew of things wrong with it. Why those all happen, and some of them they compound each other, like air traffic controllers not having enough air traffic controllers, not having pilots who are at their adequate crew rest, flight attendants are rushed through the training, and so on and so on and so on. And then on top of all this, now we're having to rush through the maintenance because we have a shortage of mechanics who are actually capable of doing the work. So this turns into a huge safety risk, and the aviation industry is built on rigorous safety standards. Maintenance, for those of you who are unaware, or for those of you who lack any sort of care, maintenance is a huge part of it. And without enough qualified mechanics, maintaining these standards can become a significant challenge. And it already is to some extent. So what are some ways that we can help? Let's just not talk about the problems while looking at possible solutions, right? Well, one approach is to invest in the training and education to encourage people to pursue careers as aircraft mechanics. You've seen us in many an episode, and if you follow us on social media, we constantly promote like mechanics sharing their day in their life, mechanics showing like how their ingenuity solves problems, mechanics students getting scholarships, awards, so on and so forth. We've partnered with nonprofit organizations such as Tech Force and Aerospace Maintenance Council and stuff like that. These are some of the really small ways of how we can all just get involved and just help people understand that being in a trade does not mean you're stupid, right? I don't know where this came about, where being in a trade is like a sign that you're stupid or the sign that you're not capable of running your own business. Maybe that's just me personally, but I recall a time when you weren't even offered an executive level or a managerial level position if you have not done the groundwork. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you would have to have suffered in the suck at least a little bit, so you know what the person on the bottom has to go through when you make your managerial like decisions, or what some people would assume is leadership decisions. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. But again, like we've somehow lost that, or we somehow made it some kind of derogatory ick thing. So that's one way we can do those, right? Is to is to encourage those type of people to pursue those careers. Again, like investing in training and education, scholarships, apprenticeships, partnerships with educational institutions. They can help create a pipeline for talent. And there's other organizations out there, little micro organizations like Hover with Hargis or Women Rock Wings, Women with Wings, and stuff like that. Yeah, I know I just said a whole bunch of women centric stuff, but those type of organizations, like, they partner up with other orgs. Another example was Stay Indiana. This was a nonprofit that we've had on a previous episode where they take high school kids and they more or less teach them how to be mechanics by building their own plane. And then once they built their plane, then they fly said plane. They not only get the experience, they get the training from a certified aircraft maintainer who is also a pilot. So they more or less get 2 for 1. They get an aircraft mechanics training and they get pilot training. That's huge, right? And there's so many of those out there. And really all it takes is for you to just go about your community and see what's available. There's another organization, it's called Aviation for Kids, I believe it's called. And this one, I believe, is down in California, where they take, it's kind of like a summer camp where they take kids to flight simulators and make them see what it's like to fly without having them physically hold on to a stick, like a real plane, so to speak. So they can make all the mistakes they can, and all they got to do is just reset their game and things of that nature. But that's a couple of different ways that we can do this. And then again, like nonprofits such as Tech Forest Foundation, the Aerospace Maintenance Council, these are organizations that are actively working to reinvigorate the trades and support students and active professionals in these fields. They provide resources, they give out scholarships, they give out awards. The Aerospace Maintenance Council has the aircraft maintenance competition, which is hosted like over 3 days at an expo. So all these big executives, all these aviation enthusiasts are seeing these aircraft mechanics who are not just students, but they're all across the industry from various different countries, even like from commercial airliners, general aviation mechanics, like that own their own business, defense mechanics, active military people, things of that nature. They're all competing with each other to see who has enough talent to earn certain awards and trophies at this competition, right? So this is a way to spark all this interest. And this not only helps promote skill development, it also gives opportunities for people to network, to communicate, and pretty much map out their career. Because it's one thing to show what the skills can be. It's another thing to kind of map it out as to where can you end up if you take certain avenues. And some people are in this fork in the road, but they're not sure where they want to go. Do they want to be management? Do they want to just stay a regular mechanic? Do they want to turn into an inspectors? Do they want to become auditors, like kind of like what myself and MVP do? Do they want to be managers, manage their own airfield, manage their own aircraft maintenance shop, whatever, right? There's different ways to go about these, and there's so many different avenues that you can take to make these happen. But we're not going to be able to address these if there's no people coming in to have interest with. And again, going back to my previous one with the DMEs or the maintenance examiners, from what I understand from people who have recently gone through the pipeline to become aircraft mechanics, is that a lot of the testing is very rigid. It's not only rigid, some of it might be a little outdated. So that's another way we can possibly help get the wheels turning in this, is to advocate for the testings to have a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more updates, and maybe a little bit more applicability to the current state of things, so that we can arm these, or we can make these students or these hopefuls more actively engaged and more equipped to handle things as they are now. An example from from my previous times when I was around coming through the pipe versus someone today is when I was going through, a lot of the emphasis was on troubleshooting, and a lot of the emphasis was on sheet metal and memorizing certain publications like verbatim. Like that's really all it was memorizing certain publications. And then once we get the test, we just brain dump it because we will next to never use certain things ever again, which is nice to know. But if you're going to fill your brain full of stuff that you're never going to use like ever again, like then what's really the point? You know what I mean? Compared to today, they're using the same stuff, but technology has progressed far and beyond from what those tests or those lessons are talking about. For example, like canvas weaving. Is it a good skill? Sure. But how many canvas planes have you seen as of late? Usually at an air show or at a museum, that's about it, right? Or unless someone in a general aviation, I own my own plane, I own my own shop, is they have specific stuff. But majority of things today is very avionics driven. A lot of things today is very composite oriented or composite composition that gets made up of those stuff. And a lot of things are very trending towards AI, so to speak, like going into that predictive analysis and stuff like that. So if we're still teaching canvas weaving or canvas patching versus like we're trying to have Jarvis plug into a plane and do it, there's going to be a big skill gap. You know what I mean? So that's another thing too, is to advocate for a little bit more relevance as far as the training is concerned. But a lot of this stuff, it takes time. It's not something that happens fast. It's not something that can turn on a dime. So it takes a lot of demand. It takes a lot of interest. It takes a lot of pushing. And sometimes it takes part in the examiners themselves having the flexibility to adapt to certain situations. From what I understand with DMEs today is a lot of their testing procedures are very rigid. Like they have to follow a certain way of doing things, like have to, and there's no deviation from it. From a certain point of view, that's a good thing, right? Like don't deviate from standards. Standards is the standard, etc., etc., etc. And some of these things I have personally beat up too. Like here's the standard, here's what you got to do, just roll with it, right? But if those standards are outdated, then we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot here. And another example to compare this to is for pilot examiners. They have a little bit more flexibility, a little bit more leeway with their students regarding testing. Like they can test them at certain airports. They can fly them there to meet them for the test and do X, Y, and Z. And they can come up with scenarios that are a little bit more relevant to the time we're in. And then maybe also to the plane itself relating to certain issues or tricks or tips that have been discovered throughout time. That's one of the big things that pilot examiners have versus maintenance examiners, is they have that flexibility to adapt. And especially when it comes to the student themselves, like sometimes we're trying to move away from just having a student memorize things like how you would a standardized test, that they don't really understand what they're saying, but they're taught to regurgitate it because that's the air quotes right answer, versus like actually having a firm grasp of what it's trying to tell you. And then you get put in the field to actually do the work, and then you actually know what the hell you're doing versus like just memorizing shortcuts and then just hoping that you have the right manual or the right set of publications to actually do the work properly. This is something I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot on, because it's one of those I contradict myself kind of thing, because we always stress to follow the manuals, follow the standards and the manuals, follow the policy standards and the manuals. But if they're outdated, then what do we do now? So there's a little bit of give and take with those, and it takes a little bit more of push and a demand to make these things line up with what's currently relevant today. And I believe those DMEs that are out there, if I'm striking a chord with you, please reach out to us and tell us, like, what can we all do to help you guys do your jobs better? Do we need to advocate for some kind of policy change that's internal to just you guys? Or is there some type of initiative that we as all collectively as aircraft maintenance can do to relieve some of the tension from you? Like, I don't know, like more practical exam related OJT, or allowing a organization to perform their own test, or have some type of designated ominous dominus DME kind of thing, and then you guys just audit their testing procedures and stuff like that. That's one way. I'm throwing curveballs at this moment, and I invite every single one of you, especially DMEs out there, if this is striking a chord, please tell us, like, what can we all collectively do to help you with this? Because we're in the shit now where we're slowly starting to lose our workforce. And the longer we drag our feet on this, it's going to catch up to us. And then next thing you know, we're having one mechanic per airport, or one mechanic per airplane, and he or she or that person has to do anything and everything with that plane with zero help. Can it get done? Sure. I mean, I've done it a handful of times. It sucked, but it's more beneficial, and it meets the demand much better if we have a more robust, a better equipped, and well knowledgeable workforce. Right. So for those of you listening who are part of this industry, who are thinking about joining, who are thinking about getting into the aviation community, now is the time to act. Whether it's advocating for more training programs, embracing new technologies, every effort counts. And to all the aviation enthusiasts out there, spread the word. Share the wealth, share the importance of this issue with all the people you know. Awareness is the first step to getting the wheel turning. And then for those DMEs out there, or for those people with influence out there who are experiencing these problems right now, please reach out to us. Let us know what we can do to help you out. So with that, thank you for joining me today for this discussion on the future of aviation maintenance. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, share it with all your friends, share it with those you love who have an affinity and a love and enthusiasm for aviation. And for those who are looking to join this field, please bring that spark, bring that fire, and let's help us move this into a positive direction. And let us know what you think. Is there anything here I missed, or was there stuff that I've got wrong? I invite you to continue this discussion with us. So you can send us your feedback, send us your thoughts, your possible solutions, your gripes, and so forth. You can do this via email on our website. You can do this via social media, Facebook, whichever is easiest for you. The absolute best way to have conversation like this with us and have near instant feedback is through our Discord channel via Patreon. And for all our Patrons out there, thank you so much for supporting us and giving us this platform to voice these opinions and voice these concerns as they happen, so we don't trend towards the negative faster than we should have, like how it did once 2019 freaking swept in. So again, stay tuned for more episodes where we tackle the challenges and celebrate the triumphs of this aviation world. Until next time, keep your eyes open on the skies, keep your wings in the air. This is Six, signing off. We'd like to take a moment to give a heartfelt shout out to our fantastic patrons. Your unwavering support is the magic behind the show, helping us produce thrilling episodes, keep our gear in top shape, and create awesome merch just for you. With special shout outs going to SaKonna, Eric Shaw, Kyle Keir, Daniel Liang, Mike Sherwood, Caleb Stockdale, Karma Trisciani, Dan Schubert, and Ryan Freshour. Thank you all so much for your support and your patronage. If you enjoy our show, why not join our Patreon community? You'll unlock a whole slew of perks, including access to our private Discord community, special discounts, early board access to our merch, and front row seat to our sneak peeks of our comics and other projects. And if you're feeling adventurous, don't forget to strut your stuff as an aviation aficionado by visiting our store at cancelformaintenance.com. For those who appreciate a touch of class or rugged charm, check out our affiliate at Rockwell Time at rockwelltime.com. Use the code CX4MX for 10% off your total order. If you need a headset, be it for in the aircraft or on the ground, or just need better ways to preserve your hearing, visit DalcomTech at dalcomtech.com. Got a burning topic or you'd like to be a guest on the show? Drop us a line on our contact us section at cancelformaintenance.com. We're all ears and we're eager to bring your ideas to life. Stay connected with us on social media. You can find us on Facebook at Cancel for Maintenance, or you can follow us on Instagram and Threads at Canx, that's CANX, for Maintenance Podcast. Lastly, be sure to check out our comics on the Tapas app. We might just be the only webcomic focused on aircraft mechanics. Like, share, subscribe, and leave us your thoughts. Thank you all again for being the great community that you are. Your support means the absolute world to us, and we can't wait to catch you all on the next episode. Until then, keep 'em flying.